The signal was always there, hidden in static, buried in fragments, in usernames, whispers, metadata. Old forum posts, deleted tweets, dark web echoes, and the stories people thought nobody would ever find. Before hashtags became headlines, before open source intelligence became a buzzword, 2 women were already living it. One came from military intelligence, Arabic linguist, warfighter support, CIA, DIA, innovation labs built before the world understood why they mattered. Kirby Blesses, founder, builder, teacher, operator. A service-disabled veteran who turned intelligence tradecraft into a global classroom. More than 25,000 investigators trained, FBI, DEA, federal agencies, corporate teams, analysts chasing fraud, criminal networks, terrorist financing, human trafficking, cryptocurrency trails, and digital ghosts hiding in plain sight. From South by Southwest stages to international crime conferences, Kirby helped shape modern OSINT before most people could even define it. And while the internet evolved, she kept teaching people how to see through it. Then there's Sarah Womer, researcher, instructor, analyst, editor, OSINT practitioner for more than 2 decades. Long before social media dominated the battlefield, Sarah was studying how extremists would weaponize online platforms. In 2008, she authored reports projecting terrorist use of Twitter before the rest of the world caught up. Fort Huachuca, the 304th Military Intelligence Battalion, training soldiers, building curricula, publishing operational intelligence products, teaching analysts how to think, not just what to search. Baghdad during the invasion of Iraq, Riyadh, the State Department after September 11th, counter disinformation, counter extremism, hostile propaganda analysis, a career spent decoding influence, narratives, and the psychology behind information warfare, and somehow through all of it, still making time for rescue hounds and laughter yoga. Different paths, same mission, to understand the world through the evidence people leave behind. Together they became OSINT IRL. Not just a show, not just a podcast, a conversation between practitioners, a place where tradecraft meets humanity, where investigators, analysts, journalists, researchers, and curious minds pull back the curtain on the digital world we all live inside. This is about more than tools. It's about intuition, pattern recognition, curiosity, context, the art of seeing what others miss. Because the internet never forgets, and neither do they. Welcome to OSINT IRL.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Kirby. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing okay.
We missed last week. Things were happening, so it happens. But we are here again, and we're going to talk about Nancy Guthrie. Sarah, you have some information. Should we play a video?
Yes. So first, I just wanted to say that Nancy Guthrie disappeared on January 31st. With last year is when she disappeared.
This year.
Yeah. Yes. Sorry. And there's actually been developments over the past 24, 48 hours of information that's been shared with the news. So I'm just going to do a short clip related to that first.
Hey everybody, Matt Johnson here. New details in the alleged ransom notes in the Nancy Guthrie case.
2 notes sent to media outlets from an alleged kidnapper following the 84-year-old's disappearance indicated that Nancy had died.
And then a few days after the kidnapping, he said, time is no longer of the essence.
And then what the reports were confirming earlier today, that she was buried with nature.
In the snow.
Right. So, as they just said, it's been released that there's a possibility that she might be deceased, given the information from these ransom notes. And that's something that's developed over the past 24, 48 hours as far as publicly available information. But again, she disappeared on January 31st. People realized she disappeared when she didn't show up for church the next day. Investigators found bloodstains that were confirmed to be hers near the front door in the driveway, along with evidence indicating that she was taken against her will, including surveillance footage from the Ring camera, which we'll be discussing briefly. Multiple ransom notes have been received in this case, and also some cryptocurrency demands. Some of the cryptocurrency demands actually ended up being scams, and we'll discuss some of that in our podcast today. And she's been missing now for over 130 days. The reason that we decided to do this as a topic is because this case is a great example of what people should and shouldn't do in civilian investigations, and also some of the OSINT implications of what can be used for this type of investigation, and then also the cryptocurrency investigation aspect of it as well. And now I'm going to show a second video, a clip of that relates to what you shouldn't do with investigations. And that video is from JLR and Investigates, and we're going to watch a short clip of that.
Breaking news: suspicious mystery man seen at Nancy Guthrie's home today. Who is this guy right here? I have photographs given to me by a JLR sleuth. I want to share with you. She had a visitor today, Nancy Guthrie, at her home. Who is this guy? Why was he there?
Okay. We'll be discussing this in the podcast as well. JLR Investigates. And then we have a third video clip we wanted to show for this discussion, which is the Ring camera footage. So I'm going to show that as well right now. And then all right. So that is it for the video clip portion. And now to the discussion. For OSINT investigations, this case has provided several incidents and case examples of what to do and not to do, as mentioned. And I'm ready for questions, Kirby.
Okay, so again, that video was of the night that she had disappeared, right? The Ring camera video.
Yeah. Well, there was actually two Ring camera videos. There was where the person showed up on a Ring camera, 2 incidents.
Okay, I want to kind of highlight that this got a lot of attention in February and March because this is Savannah Guthrie, who is a CBS News host, her mother, and so it got a lot of attention for a little bit, but has since died down. But there's always like a little bubbling of information, and some of it is coming from like the bloggers and the live streamers, right? But we'll talk about them in a minute, I think. So one of the questions is, how has OSINT played a central role in the early stages of the investigation, and really specifically in the verifying the initial evidence, like the surveillance footage?
So okay. So you cut off just for a second, but I think you asked about what kind of.
I'll ask it again.
Can you?
Okay. How has OSINT played a central role in the beginning, in the early stages, and like thinking about like the video surveillance footage? Has OSINT done anything with this?
Yes. Yes, because that video footage was released to the public, but whether or not it was you had two parts. You had a lot of public tips, not just from the video footage, but in general. So the law enforcement asked for public tips. They did get some good leads from public tips, but they also got thousands and thousands of calls. But the video footage has been key in providing information surrounding the case. So obviously that is something that you would want to address or assess. One of the things I noticed with the video footage is everybody off the bat assumed that it's a man. And there was a lot of public statements saying it's a man. My question is, from watching it, to me, it wasn't clear that it's male, so I think it makes more sense to say it's a suspect, versus assuming that it's a male. So I think there were a lot of assumptions made by people from what they saw versus necessarily fact. But as far as they were able to look up, what kind of gloves, what kind of clothes the person was wearing. When you're wearing something, you can obviously, if something has a logo on it, you can look that up. And that would all be OSINT tactics that you use for researching that.
Okay. Yeah, I want to clarify that the video itself didn't start out as OSINT. That's something that law enforcement was given. But then when they released it for us, that's OSINT. But also when they're going through it themselves to identify the gloves and that sort of stuff, they're definitely going to use a lot of OSINT to try to identify what that stuff is. Yeah, absolutely. What other publicly available or digital evidence have they recovered besides that video?
Well, they've received ransom notes. Obviously, they've looked at different people who have traveled in the area or visited the house. At one point, there was a lady who was arrested for different kidnapping. They don't think that was associated, but it was an interesting incident that it was a lady who had done a kidnapping in the same area. So, I mean, there's been a lot of different things happening with this case as far as looking at OSINT leads, even looking at, for example, what would be a route to her door, or what roads could somebody, go in and go out to get away from the house. You can look up that kind of thing on Google Maps or on route planners.
Right, and then hopefully try to find cameras, surveillance cameras, or even just publicly available, cameras for traffic or whatever along those routes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What kind of challenges do the flood of tips and social media tips create for image verification? For information verification. What kind of the flood of information that's out there generated by the public, how does that affect verification for information?
Well, I think in this instance, because this kidnapping went viral and became such a huge topic on YouTube and all these other channels, is everybody started crowdsourcing it on the topic. And so I think law enforcement actually got over tipped, because you had, and it was hard
case. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a very, very high profile case. And so I think that, it was probably a challenge to be able to weed through what was factual and not factual. And again, I think OSINT would help vetting some of that information. If somebody said, oh, well, somebody drove from here to here, and it took, they could look at something online to check and see is that how long it would theoretically take to drive, or even, if somebody said, oh, I have an alibi because I was at location X, they could see if location X, again, has a camera to see if they were there. So I do think that there was a lot of different things that could be assessed, but I also think that because it was such a high profile case, that it was really hard to do information verification and fact finding with this case.
I'm sure that they had, several detectives or investigators that were like just dedicated to OSINT verification.
Right. Yep.
Probably. Mm.
Yep.
Can you walk us through some of the major pieces of misinformation that came out about this and how OSINT could debunk them?
Yeah. So there's been a lot of misinformation. Like at one point, there was a conspiracy theory running that her own family kidnapped her, and that was put out. I mean, that had to have been very hurtful to the victim's family, because they're victims too. And you have this misinformation and deliberate disinformation being spread, saying, "Oh, it was somebody in the family who took her." You also had an instance where disinformation was used for actual fraud, for cryptocurrency, like where somebody was trying to steal money from the family by claiming that they had her. And then you also had people just not doing fact checking, that would just make, again, assumptions without verifying the actual information itself.
So, okay, so there's a couple of points that I want to kind of address. The first thing is the family one. Well, the accusing of the family, I think, was horrible, and the way that they pointed fingers. I think because it's an unsolved case that we can't automatically say that no one in her family had anything to do with it. But it's not right to, without any evidence that they did, be jumping on anybody. So like right now, it's like the thing is that's like an unknown, and you shouldn't be doing anything. The second point that you gave, I can't remember what it was now, and I had something else to add to it.
The cryptocurrency.
Oh, okay, yeah, that guy. Okay, that's right. I want to say, like, that's really a kind of a common scam that people do, like a missing person or a missing animal or whatever. Some scammers, they'll just like follow the news for that sort of thing and just call in and look at that. And then Sarah's dog will yell at them. But anyway, beyond the dogs yelling at them, yes, we hear that. Sarah looks so guilty. All right, but anyway, the last thing was the not verifying information before like going public with it. And the example would be the video that you showed us, where the guy, he has a picture of somebody approaching the property. How many people approached the property that after that happened? People were dropping flowers off. There were, other reporters were there. You can't just be like, ooh, suspicious person, and then just blast their picture out. I mean, you can, but it doesn't make you trustworthy.
Right. Well, and you even had, people that drove out there that were interfering with the investigation that were citizen investigators. I mean, even recently. So I mean, I think that, again, it's a, people jump to conclusions based on what they thought would be a reasonable pattern, or what they assumed, oh, lots of murders have been done by a family member, therefore it must be a family member. And then they put out a conspiracy theory saying why they think it's his family member. This whole incident has been rife with misinformation and disinformation.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, people who want to do some investigating, or they want to contribute and assist, how can they do so without causing harm, and really specifically having to deal with neighborhood cameras or public records, that sort of thing? How can they help without treading on the case or pointing the finger at people who may very well be innocent?
Right. So like the one clip I showed, which was JLR Investigates, that clip, which was the second video clip I showed, they showed this man, and I mean, that man didn't say, hey, I want to be on YouTube to be considered as a part of this investigation. They didn't know why he went by there. And that particular channel has actually interfered with the Guthrie investigation. Like, there was one time where JLR went to the Nancy Guthrie's house, and people delivered food to him at the house, which was actively interfering with the police investigation at the location. So that is actually an example of what not to do. You shouldn't, post up somebody's picture and say, who is this? Who is this? Who is this? Because then you're going to get a whole
neighbor walk about,
Right. Right. I mean, it could be all kinds of things. But that actually is very unhelpful, and it can be harmful, because what if the person is accused of being engaged in it and they're just trying to deliver a piece of mail?
Right.
You know, so I think that would be one example of what not to do. But the things that people can do is they can look and see, okay, is my camera in the area of this path, could it have caught something? That would be helpful to the police. If they knew Nancy Guthrie and they knew her pattern of life, and knew that she might have been doing something else besides church, that would be helpful. But in this instance, I think it's something that you should be very careful not to infringe on the actual investigation, which happened a lot with this case. And then the other thing is harm to the family. Because some of these investigators, I'm sure, have ended up hurting the feelings of again, the family that has been victimized by this incident.
Maybe not even just their feelings, but it may have hurt their livelihood. Maybe it hurts their job. I mean, and they're probably. I mean, I know that the reporters, of course, are gonna post up, and they're going to film and report on this sort of thing. What I understand is that even now, months later, there are people who sometimes post up in front of that location and are interfering with traffic, with the neighbors, post up in front of the families' houses, things like that. So I think that there comes a point where it's harassment rather than reporting.
Right. And I think there's also a difference between actually doing an investigation or being a citizen investigator and trying to be helpful and trying to be trying to do sensationalism, trying to get attention, which some of the online pundits did with their civilian investigations.
Okay. So what role could advanced OSINT tools, such as, I don't know if I would consider genetic genealogy, but what role can they play in verifying leads, like commercial data, information, things like that?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, again, I think the biggest thing in this case was probably the cameras. With any DNA evidence, forensic genealogy would be of interest. That in and of itself,
exactly. Although researching family members.
Exactly. That part is not OSINT, but once you start looking at family trees and some of the family lookup tools like the ancestry.com tool, at that point it does pivot to OSINT.
Yeah.
So I think that's helpful. Doing pattern analysis or life pattern analysis, I think would be very helpful in this instance, as would an association matrix, like looking at who are all of her associates, who are other people she knows, who has she recently had contact with. That would be of interest as well. And because she was related to a high profile figure, which is the newscaster, is to look and see if that newscaster had received any odd communications prior, or any associations prior that might have been new associations, and make an association matrix off of that.
Right. Okay. All right. So when we're talking about AI and deepfakes, have there been cases or things about AI in this case? And what verification should journalists and OSINT practitioners follow when they're thinking about possible AI generated evidence?
Well, in this instance, or whenever you have a kidnapping case, one of the big things is always worrying about AI fraud. And so if the victim has had their voice online, is making sure that somebody hasn't copied it and then do a phone call to pretend to be the victim.
It's very easy to clone people's voices, we've discovered.
Yeah. And I mean, that is the thing. I mean, there's been lots of people that have gotten fake phone calls saying your daughter's been kidnapped or your father's been kidnapped, and they've gotten a clone of the person's voice. So that is, I think, a concern in any kidnapping case. And now you also have like Kirby and I right now are on this podcast, but somebody could take this podcast and they can make a video of us online that is not real. So that changes the whole investigative landscape, where you have to be aware that is an issue, whether you're law enforcement or a civilian investigator. You can't automatically assume that something is real. You have to actually vet it first.
Mhm.
If it's voice or video.
Yeah. So looking ahead, could lessons in OSINT verification from this case improve responses to future high-profile cases, like where you get a lot of tips and could be a lot of garbage? How can lessons from this case improve verification?
Yeah, I think, I mean, that's a hard question, but I think one of the big things with this is maybe if law enforcement had made some early on PSAs about what would be helpful, and I know that they did to an extent, but be more vocal about it, and say these are the things that do not help us at this time,
Mhm.
because there was so much interference with this case.
And that's because it was so high profile. I think a lot of high profile cases will get this kind of
Yeah.
attention
Yeah,
from people who just want to be part of it. I feel like, I mean, there's people who are doing it for attention and to get money, and there's some people who just want to be, they just want to be helpful, and something that, well, report it or don't report it. There's something small that happened. Sometimes that small thing can be the thing that breaks the case. So
Right.
You're right. Have law enforcement say, okay, these kind of things are useful and these kind of things are not. Then people could say, oh, well, that's in the not useful category of things, I guess.
Right. And I mean, if somebody questions whether or not something is useful or not useful, prior to slapping it up on YouTube or on
Send it to law enforcement.
Send it directly to law enforcement and say, hey, I'm not sure if this is useful, but this is what I have. And then law enforcement can respond to you.
Mhm. Yep. Yeah. So I think I'm going to kind of skip down to the section where we talk about this. Have there been some citizens that have assisted this case? Like not gotten in the way and actually.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure, I'm sure that they probably got some good tips on the video analysis. And I mean, who knows, maybe it is a guy. But, for me watching it, I wasn't able to tell if it was a guy or a lady. It's just,
Yeah, I think one of the things that some of the citizens did was identify the holster, the gloves, the clothes.
Yes. Yeah. So I think there was some object identification that was done, and that's an excellent point, because that's one area where people can even assist with, like Interpol. Interpol has this whole thing with identify this object that they'll post on their website, and it's to assist victims that have been kidnapped or that are being exploited. A lot of times it's children, and so that's something, like, if you want to be a citizen investigator, is go to that Interpol website and go identify what those objects are and say, this is,
or even in this case, but not. I mean, I think there's a lot of conversation, especially, I think there's some places online that are really good for people to kind of get together and chat about and like work this stuff out. And one would be like, and I know I pick on Reddit before, but like Reddit, the RBI, Reddit Bureau of Investigation, where people are kind of going back and forth on this. I believe there and Web Sleuths, both sections, there are moderators in there that'll say, okay, do not go contact anybody, don't be the person standing in front of their house, whatever. Here's how you do this kind of stuff correctly, and here's how we discuss it, and here's the channels to get into law enforcement. And those are some good places for people to start. And if they really think, okay, I've got some information, something to add, go to those two places, and they may help you focus and add and be actually a positive addition to the investigation.
Right. And Trace Labs, which is does a crowdsourced CTF for finding missing people. One of the things that they do in their CTFs is they very strongly point out, don't call the victim's family. Don't
stand in front of their house.
Right. Don't stand in front of their house. And frankly, at that point, you're not doing OSINT anyways. That's not OSINT. That's, if you're
Well,
doing.
here's the thing is, I think citizen investigators could care less if something's labeled OSINT. They want to consider themselves investigators or journalists, and investigators and journalists contact people and call people. The key thing is, if you are a citizen, that is not your investigation. That is somebody else's investigation, and no investigator is going to step on somebody else's investigation, no matter where they come from. So, for example, if this is an investigation owned by the FBI, you're not going to have like some other place just like, okay, coming in and doing all the interviews just because they want to. No, the FBI is going to handle it in that case, or agency is going to handle it. As a citizen investigator, do the same, offer the same courtesy. Some other investigator has that under control. You can send in suggestions to them on who you think they should be interviewing, but you should not be doing the interviews yourself.
Right. No, I think that's an excellent point. And there's like some citizen investigators that they'll go out and they'll actually go to like a sexual predator, and like they'll go up to the sexual predator and then they'll show the sexual predator's name and show their face and go argue with them. And that citizen investigator might have just ruined an FBI agent's bust, where that person could have gone to jail for the rest of their life.
And or they could be wrong because a citizen investigator doesn't have like the legal authority to take that person to jail and convict them. They could be wrong. Even investigators know they could be wrong, which is why there's a court system.
Right.
So you should not be like blasting them out on,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And one of the things I think is also helpful is if you are doing any kind of investigation, whether it's, an OSINT investigation, law enforcement investigation, citizen investigation, is to do an analysis of competing hypotheses, is to look at, if you think it's A, what other things could it be before you try and come to a conclusion or a summary.
Yeah. And Cheryl Waddell, who is one of my awesome contacts and former law enforcement, she says, standing out in front of the victim's house is a great way to be considered a person of interest and detract from the investigation. Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yes. You definitely would be a person of interest at that point. And even if you're not, honestly, you can be breaking how many other laws just doing that too. So perfect. Thank you for that comment. Yeah. Let's move on to cryptocurrency. So how did cryptocurrency feature? Tell us about the cryptocurrency angle.
Well, in this instance, they received one of the ransom notes that they received from this guy in California was they received a note with an actual Bitcoin address saying to send the money to that Bitcoin address, and that person claimed that they had Nancy Guthrie. So obviously that was a fraud to get money. The thing about cryptocurrency, though, is if it's on the blockchain, is that you can do a very clear blockchain investigation of where that cryptocurrency is coming from. So it actually, if it had been the real kidnapper, that would have been like super easy to get the kidnapper. In this instance, though,
it was but yeah, in that case, I think the kidnappers did put out a crypto address. I'm not entirely sure if they did or not, but and that potentially money was tried to be sent through it, like a smaller amount. But I want to say this: the crypto analysis is absolutely possible. I think that's a really good thing for citizen investigators to like jump into, because one, it is a little bit harder than just like that. It's traceable, but it's anonymous but traceable. But it is something that if people get into that and start learning how to do that for as far as I saw you roll your eyes at me, Sarah. But if they get into that is when citizens can help.
Yeah, no, I think it is something that citizens can get into, doing an investigation of a crypto address and things like that. And when I said easy in this instance, it was the one who did the fraud. It was easy because it was a Bitcoin address.
Well,
and it was pretty.
The way he transmitted it as well. So,
yeah, the wallet was viewable, and it wasn't.
All wallets are viewable, but that's not
right.
necessarily.
Yeah. And now there are crypto investigations that are very, very hard to try and discern where the money is going to, or especially if somebody's using like a mixer, or
they're transferring it from one crypto to another. That's kind of
right. Or they're using something.
There's methodology for that. There is methodology. So if that's something you want to get into, I would suggest you.
Right. But in this instance, the one person in California, the crypto address they used was pretty transparent.
I didn't pay attention, so I don't know like if they got him through the crypto address or if they got him through the method of transmitting the. But either way, he's busted.
Oh yeah, totally. He
Either
was
way. Mhm. Okay, so let's see. I'm gonna ask one final question, and that is going to be the most recent emails that are coming in, the most recent threats. Are those verified? Are they considered to be legitimate, or not threats, but the information about her possibly being buried or something like that? Are they considered verified?
I think it's too early in the news cycle to really. I mean, from what I saw, as far as that release of information, that's been over like the last 24 to 48 hours. So I would want to see additional information to verify or not verify, if that was the case. So
Sure, the hoaxer and amateur. I agree.
I do know, yeah, I do think that there's a possibility that some of the ransom notes have some fingerprints in them, so that I think will be helpful.
So these were like notes that like were handed, like they came in the mail, or they're paper notes? Is that what they are?
There was one that came in the mail that theoretically might have a fingerprint on it. That might be helpful. So that might. But again, who knows? Maybe it's something like the cryptocurrency where it's somebody who's
hoaxing it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean there has to be more. I think,
or it could even be misdirection. Like it could be the crook, but like doing a misdirection.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I mean it'll be interesting to see what develops over the next couple of days. But I do know that the whole statement of the person possibly being deceased, that was over the past 24 48 hours where that came out, and there was blood near the scene.
Yeah,
but we don't know, and that again goes the whole thing of jumping to conclusions when you don't have all the information or evidence. And the citizen investigators are not the law enforcement investigators, and the law enforcement investigators typically have more, not always, but typically have more data. So
yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. So do you have, Sarah, a nugget for an internet nugget?
I do. Let me pull it up though.
If you want to load yours, and I will show mine in the meantime.
Okay.
So go ahead and get yours loaded. I'm going to show you my internet nugget, and this is just a little bit of something fun useful that we found on the internet. Before I do, I want to see Cheryl's comment again. Cheryl says law enforcement could test a note for DNA. It's a long shot, but what else do they have? Yeah, exactly. I agree, and I know that there were some other things they were testing for DNA as well, but I'm sure that they are definitely testing it for fingerprints, DNA, etc. Okay, so my nugget, my internet nugget. This is just going to be something useful or not for everyone. Lately, I've been playing with this tool called Granola, the AI notepad for back-to-back meetings. So the idea behind this is, one, you can connect it to your calendar and have it like remind you of meetings and remind you to use it, but you don't even have to, and you can actually have it in your pocket and you brainstorm to it. It just ambiently records and transcribes whatever meetings or whatever you're telling it. And again, it doesn't have to be a meeting. I just talk to it sometimes, and then it summarizes things for you. I think it's really cool. I just learned that there's a way that the iPhone can do that in their Notes app as well, although I think maybe not as elegantly. So I'm just kind of playing with this right now, and I think I'm going to compare it against the Notes app, and I will let you know which one does it better. All right, Sarah, your turn.
Okay, so my turn is
you had to share it.
Oh, I have to share it. Okay.
Yeah, I don't see it. I would load it up, but I can't see anything. This is something you just want to talk about, which is fine.
Okay. It's not showing the button to switch it over like the other one.
You have to share again. You unshared.
Oh, okay. But my window.
Learning StreamYard.
Yeah. Okay. My StreamYard window disappeared. So just 1 second. Can you see me?
I see you. Yeah, just fine. Sarah, I think it's in the notes. I think I'll share it. Hold on.
Okay. All right. So it's at the very bottom, and what the reason I wanted to share that is that's actually what AI came up with. So AI came up with this this whole proposal or strategy that birds are doing mass surveillance, which goes the whole conspiracy theory that birds are not real. Yes.
Okay. All right. Here's your. All right.
Biome. One species persists by consensus omission from human perception. It transits transit hubs unmolested. Its apparent docility a sustained behavioral deception. The specimen maintains a complete internal cartography of every site it has occupied. Facial encoding is total and permanent. No observed human is ever discarded from memory. At dawn, the colony convenes on elevated structures to conduct formal proceedings. The behavior is not foraging but documentation. The species compiles a longitudinal record. One individual has maintained continuous urban surveillance for 19 consecutive years. Its records retain demolished structures and outstanding human debts in full. Archival volume now exceeds cranial capacity. The colony has secured off-site storage. The colony has since incorporated and now files quarterly earnings derived from your activity. Upon encountering an unregistered human, the colony enters a coordinated state of silence. The formal tribunal then adjudicates whether the subject merits continued retention in the record. The elder escalates the subject's file to a superior tier of the organizational hierarchy. That tier comprises a single colossal individual maintaining geosynchronous orbit above Earth. A single Tollon gesture propagates a synchronized update across the entire global.
Sarah, how long is this?
It's a short. I don't know why it is. It
very
is
long
a short.
short.
So I thought this was really interesting though,
Yeah.
because the AI was asked about birds, and this is what it came up with. But I will tell you, I will never look at pigeons or crows the same way again.
They're spying on us.
They're spying on us, yes.
And they don't forget anybody's debts apparently either.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Well, thanks everyone for being here and watching our OSINT IRL production. And don't forget that we have a lot of material for you on the knowledge base, as well as, do we have any events coming up? I don't think we have any events coming up directly. We have OSINT IRL next week. That's what we have. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you for stopping by.
All right.
Bye.
And Cheryl, if you saw this on YouTube, you would have thought it was a joke. It is a joke. The video, it is a joke. Yeah. All right. We'll see you. We'll see you. And thank you, Ryan. You're getting Operation Acoustic Kitty vibes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep. People need to look that up on Reddit. All right. We'll see you later.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you to our sponsors. Osmosis Association, OSINT Cocktail, Paraben Corp, and Forensic OSINT. Plesses.net powering off.